when she wrote it. When I was 17, I was an idiot. All 17-year-olds are idiots.
Yeah.
There's like maybe 4 or 5 17-year-olds.
We know that.
Yeah.
You know, we knew we were idiots at the time.
Hello and welcome back to This Week in Oakland. My name is Roberto Wickrell Cruz, and this is my co-host,
Nico Johnson.
And if you're hoping for This Week in Canada, well, we're sorry, we're actually changing it now to Oakland A's podcast.
I hope you like baseball.
Anyway, enough of that. Welcome back to This Week in Canada. This is episode 8, I believe, 7 or 8. And boy, what a really boring week. Just joking. Another insane week in Canada. Crazy. Wow.
It keeps going. When is it going to stop?
It will never stop. It's a nightmare that never ends. And, well, what are the topics we're going to talk about this week?
Oh, there's tons. May I just say, though, before I started this podcast, I was told with some conviction by a few people that, Nico, you've got to listen to this press conference. It's going to be Chrystia Freeland, you know, the woman with a just lovely voice, and Justin Trudeau. And it's so weird because they never do press conferences like that. And it's coming right after the We Committee, or right before the We Committee. And I think they're going to resign. So I was hugely excited for this. And I sat through it, and it was just an hour of just spending. They keep spending money. And it put me in a terrible mood. So forgive me if I'm slightly more sedated than I usually am.
Yeah, we're fresh off the heels of what we thought was going to be a really exciting day. We actually delayed the podcast a little bit because we thought,
That's how much we cared.
What if Justin Trudeau resigned from his office? Which would be, just absolutely crazy. He'd be like the first guy in a while to do that since like Nixon or whatever, in the U.S. So we're disappointed, but we still have other shut up. We still have other topics, things that are controversial, juicy, sexy, salacious, such as Patty Hajdu being an idiot again, Bill Morneau being weird and an idiot, and we got a Black Lives Matter protest in Toronto with their ridiculous requests, and also a little fun from West Vancouver, as particularly an LGBT crosswalk. But first off, Bill Morneau. So what's the deal with Bill Morneau this week, who is our finance minister, for those of you I'm sure you guys know if you're watching this.
Read enough Post Millennial. Bill Morneau, the finance minister, we finally found out today that there's now an official ethics inquiry, or investigation, I should say, into his dealings with the We charity. So, of course, I mean, we all know this. They awarded a charity an enormous contract to do something the civil service could do for free. It's like, well, not for free, but you know what I mean. And then, all of these revelations emerged. We know what happened with Trudeau, Trudeau's wife, Trudeau's family, all got money from, the We charity. On top of that, there's Seamus O'Regan, who's the Minister of Natural Resources. And then we found out a few days ago that Morneau, who has 2 daughters, one of them is employed by the We charity, and another one has been promoted. So she wrote some awful book, like terrible book, just total sort of politically correct, feel good for yourself. The sort of woke platitudes you get about, if you buy my book, it will help. 50% of the funds will go to some African woman somewhere.
Yeah, which is what the book is about, right? It's about some African women. It's called Something Girls. We can pull it up. It'll be here.
Yeah, and the Kielburgers, well, at least one of them, I don't care which one, wrote like a blurb supporting it. But can I just say, who buys these books? Firstly, I would never ever buy a book about how to help sort of, women in a foreign continent. And secondly, I would especially never buy a book that has the Kielburgers endorsement. I mean, these guys are awful.
Thirdly, I would never buy a book written by a 17-year-old. I'm pretty sure she was 17 when she wrote it. When I was 17, I was an idiot. All 17-year-olds are idiots.
Yeah.
There's like maybe 4 or 5 17-year-olds.
We know that.
Yeah.
We knew we were idiots at the time. Right. And I would never have the audacity to write a book and attempt to flog it to the good people of Canada, just because my dad happens to be the finance minister and could get, one of those 2 men a good deal in a contract. It's unbelievable. I don't know how they get away with this.
See, I was actually, and by the way, we just got off the heels of this press conference where Deputy Prime Minister Chrystia Freeland had said that overall they were still apologetic, but something interesting she said was that she believes that most Canadians knew about the history that Justin Trudeau had with the We charity.
Yeah, I didn't.
I don't think Canadians don't care about the Trudeaus so much that we know about their charities.
Yeah.
Stupid.
And we certainly didn't know that one of the Kielburgers endorsed some terrible book. Like, I'm sure the writing is just... she may not have even written it, first of all. She's 17 years old. Right. You know, very few 17-year-olds have the capacity, let alone Morneau's daughter. I mean, we know what Morneau's like. I can't imagine his daughter is particularly intelligent as well. And, it's shocking that this was allowed to happen. So back to the point, there's an investigation into Morneau now. I've been told by people in the Conservative Party who are involved in this investigation, who recommended it, that it's almost certain that all of these guys will be found guilty of a conflict of interest. I mean, it's so blatant. The fact that they didn't recuse themselves, that's the rub. When it came to cabinet, when they had to make a decision over whether to award we this contract, none of them said, hold on a minute, I have personal ties here. I will profit personally from the fact that these guys are getting the contract, and therefore I should probably step out of the meeting. None of them. Not a single person. Not Casey Telford, the Chief of Staff, not Justin Trudeau, not Minister O'Regan, and not Bill Morneau. And this is inevitably going to be their third ethics violation. And the penalties for it are so minor, and the Canadian public don't seem to care, or at least the media don't care, and are not sort of conveying to the public how serious this is. But it's serious. It's blatant corruption. It's irritating.
Yeah. Well, something that kind of crossed my mind, we're going to move on quickly, but something that crossed my mind is, what are the odds that this was just all an accident? See, because the way they apologize is kind of like, well, it didn't play out the way we wished it would.
Sorry.
I guess we didn't see this coming, this whole controversy. But it's like, what are the odds that's true? I think it's more likely to be struck by lightning after winning the lottery. You know what I mean? It just doesn't seem possible that they didn't see this come. Like,
I don't know whether it was malicious or like overly cynical.
Right.
What I do think is that it shows a certain subconscious arrogance held within, these liberal ministers who are all very successful, and who have all been very well educated. A lot of them have worked abroad in the States. Have made a lot of money for themselves, have villas in France, like Morneau, which he happens to forget about, if you remember that. Yeah. And so they just didn't think. They always think they're morally correct, and that there's no moral hardship here, and that they don't deserve to be scrutinized because what they're doing is good and just, naturally, because they're liberals. And that's why they did it, I would imagine. But I find that even more irritating than if they were to hold up their hands and say, yeah, we did it because I wanted to get more money. Because at least it's honest.
At least you're being
with yourself as well. You know?
So, speaking of liberal minister arrogance, let's talk about our favorite graphic designer after James, of course. James, your favorite graphic designer. But our second favorite graphic designer, who is now the Minister of Health, Patty Hajdu. Hey, Patty hairdo. Yeah. Bad hairdo. But let's talk about her real quickly, because we see another example of just being arrogant, and another clear case of rules for thee, but not for me.
I always think it's worth bringing up this point of information whenever you talk about Patty Hajdu. So she's the current health minister, obviously. It's a very important position at the moment, for reasons I'm sure you're aware of. And she's been totally useless. So not only, and we'll get on to the fact that she hasn't been abiding by her own laws, but she also has accused journalists of spreading conspiracy theories when they suggest that China's data, huge shock everyone, is slightly not as honest as they supposed or suggested it was. And she has, she didn't want to close the border out of fear that it may, provoke some racial tendencies in Canadians. So she's messed up every step of the way. Now, why is that? It's because she's a graphic designer. The last health minister was a doctor, but we got rid of her because she had some ounce of self-respect and stood down in solidarity with Jodie Wilson-Raybould after Trudeau again attempted to pursue blatant corruption.
Yeah, Jane Philpott, we miss you.
The Honourable Jane Philpott.
The Honourable Jane Philpott, we miss you so much. And we're sorry you lost your election. Jodie Wilson-Raybould, though, won as an independent, which is kind of cool. But yeah, Jane, you're out there saving lives. You're on the front lines again. God bless ye. But let's move on to what Patty Hajdu did this time, which is take some flights to Thunder Bay, which
Yeah.
is not close to Ottawa.
well,
Ontario's massive, but
And it
go
doesn't-
ahead.
It's not just that. She took flights on the official sort of jet given to the Minister of Transport, but she took twice as many flights throughout the pandemic than the Minister of Transport took on his own plane. So, and she has attempted to justify this by saying, well, I had meetings and stuff, and I had work to do in Thunder Bay, and I need to go back. It's essential work. I'm a minister of the crown. But in reality, and we can do this because it's public records, she didn't have any meetings. She had 2 events in a whole time, one of which was a radio show, which, I don't know, Bobby and I have done podcasts from different provinces, like apart.
Yeah.
So you can do that from Ottawa, by the way. And the other one was like, she had a Zoom call, which again, you can do from Ottawa. So she clearly was just going back to chill out in her home, which I'm sure is very, very nice. And it's just... What annoys me is that if you're a Liberal minister, because you're morally superior, you can get away with rules which don't apply to ordinary Canadians.
Yeah, basically. It's the kind of just classic kind of elitism that we're so used to seeing from these, what's the word, Laurentian kind of politicians who, again, they have rules for themselves that are different than rules for the public. We saw this when Justin Trudeau went to his cabin with his family, breaking his own quarantine rules. But of course, the public, I'm not allowed to go to the bar after 12 or whatever, because I don't know, that's when the virus wakes up at night is when after 12. We have rules for ourselves, for the public, but no. They don't have to.
It goes back into the original thing. I'm from Britain, and our government is a Conservative party, and they're constantly accused of elitism for doing this sort of thing. But when they are accused, they just sort of go, ha ha ha, yeah, I know, and just to sort of scoff it off. The Liberals justify it to themselves as though they're benefiting the public by breaking these laws. But it's this subconscious elitism, which I think is worse because it reveals their stupidity, and it reveals this unbridled arrogance, which they don't even realize they have. And, it's...
Yeah, so this is a little bit unrelated. I don't think I just thought of this right now.
Yeah.
What would it take, this is a bit unrelated, but what would it take for Justin Trudeau to actually have to resign? Because now that I'm thinking about it, we're used to the kind of double standards that they set out for everyone else. But what would it actually take? I mean, the Aga Khan thing, kind of boring, no one cares.
Yeah.
SNC Lavalin, a little too convoluted.
Blackface, come on.
Blackface?
Anyone else would resign.
Blackface? I don't know how he didn't resign from that.
Yeah.
This, just blatant kind of moving around money to his family through some sketchy charity for children. Apparently, again, not enough. Just fine because he keeps giving money away to everyone like some crazy genie. But what would it actually take for him to have to step down? Would he have to kill a man on Fifth Avenue? I have no idea what the hell.
Yeah.
Can you think of anything at this point?
Maybe if he did a press conference and just said horrible racial slurs. But aside from that, even then, he'd find a way to say, oh, you know what, I accept responsibility for my actions, and I'm asking the Canadian public to forgive me. And the media would be like, yeah, I guess we can forgive him. He only said a few racial slurs, and he is young, he's...
He's only 49.
Yeah, he's only 49, he's not 60, and he's only been Prime Minister for 5 years, and all the rest of it, and no one advised him not to, so I guess, it shouldn't really be blamed for it.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I think he is immune from resignation. But I look at Chrystia Freeland, and she is obviously keen on becoming Prime Minister. She's an intelligent woman, she has an impressive resume, and she must think, how the hell hasn't this guy been forced out yet? She's waiting eagerly on the wings of the Prime Minister's office, waiting for Trudeau to trip up. He always does, and yet he manages to sort of gain ground and is stable all the time.
Yeah, she must just really be counting down the days for the election or something.
Yeah.
Do you think Trudeau's actually going to run in the next election? Do you think it's going to be him, or do you think it's about time that he hands the reins over to Freeland? Because honestly, I got to say, I don't even think Trudeau likes being there. I think it was fun for a little bit. Maybe the first term was really cool. Second term kind of felt like he had to do it. I don't think he really wants to do a third term.
Like a gap year student. So he
exactly.
floats around, he's trying to figure out his career. He's done teaching, he's done yoga. Yeah. He was a ski instructor for a bit. He was a bouncer. He's been an MP, now he's Prime Minister, but he's reached the end and he's found himself stuck in a job he's like that he really wants to get out of. So I suspect after this, like there's probably nothing more than he wants to do than go hang out in East Asia for a bit or teach English in Korea. It's just his next step.
Yeah, that's hilarious. Anyway, I just want to say, going back to Patty Hairdo, you're our idiot of the week.
Make sure you get it in this time, James.
Yeah, idiot of the week, Patty Hairdo. Anyway, we're going down to Toronto now for a topic that is, I think, happening right now. We record these a day prior, right? Right now
Live
in Toronto, this is breaking news. We have a Black Lives Matter protest with some silly requests, which is always hilarious. These Black Lives Matter protests, obviously, huge cultural change going on in the world right now. We just saw everything from the Washington Redskins to statues. Everything's changing because a guy got killed in Minnesota. It's insane. It was a big deal. It's very sad. Obviously, police reform is important, but it's not just about police reform anymore. Because Black Lives Matter, Toronto, have released a bunch of requests.
A list of demands.
Not so much requests, and it's a little counterintuitive, I'm going to say, to start off, because one of the first things that you can hear people chanting out in the streets is they do not want body cams for police officers.
Yeah.
Because,
why?
So this is the reasoning. They don't want body cams because that would, in turn, give more funding
That is so stupid.
to the police department.
Oh my God.
So because they want to defund the police, they
For
think...
some arbitrary reason as well. It's just, again, it's an empty platitude to defund the police, which will, I mean, perhaps achieve racial equality. You know, naturally, it's how these things work.
And shout out to Saskatoon real quick,
Yeah.
who in the face of defund the police, funded the police, gave them more money, which is just awesome, you know? So
Yeah.
kudos to you. We love our boys in blue out there. And I'm not talking about the Orlando Magic. I'm talking about the police, baby.
But it's so weird. I really don't understand. Perhaps someone, you know, who's watching this podcast can explain this to me. How is defunding the police going to solve this problem? I mean, if we accept the premise that the police need to change, then surely a lot of the problems which revolve around the police and all the sort of brutality that's been happening, particularly south of the border, can be put to the fact that they're not trained well enough.
Right.
And surely we need to fund them, give them better training, you know, make it longer than 12 weeks, and a lot of this stuff will be fixed. You know, give them body cams so they have some sort of accountability. Like, it must be funding the police.
No. You can't give them body cams because then you give them more. Thank you for watching This Week in Oakland, Canada. My name is Roberto Wickrell Cruz. Again, this is Nico Johnson. Leave us a like, a comment, a subscription would do us a lot of good. And let us know in the comments.
And tell us what you enjoyed. What's your favourite part about the podcast? What was the best line? These are all things we read and think about before we go to bed. Indeed, it gives us meaning. It's a terribly vacuous world. You know, I don't have God. I don't have a country. So quite frankly, your comments are what gets me through the day. So please do give us a like.
Let us know who's more handsome. Let us know whose shirt is nicer. Let us know whose hat you like more. Let us know just what you'd like to see on the podcast. Any topics we're not covering. I know we've been really wee heavy, but you know what? Sometimes you have a heavy wee. So let us know in the comments what you like, what you didn't like. My name, again, Roberto Wickrell Cruz. This is Nico Johnson. Thank you for watching
Bye-bye.
This Week in Canada.
Nice joke.
Thanks.